Hello, hello. It's been a while. All right, how do I do this? Go here. Say that it's 26th of February. Hello, Nerdcell. Hello again. All right, the zomboid is over, so we're back here. But what are we going to do? We need to think. Thus, this is a thinking stream. Are you down to jam? All right, let's see here. Down to jam? Question mark. Let's think about this. Sure. I think so. Yes, let's open the website and go to streamer mode here. d2jam.com. Let's see here. March 6th to March 9th, which is going to be literally exactly in 1 week is when it's starting. Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess. Let's log in here. What do I do? What do I do? So there is the theme elimination happening currently, actually. Join the gem first. Okay, so we need to join. Did I join? Did I join? I clicked join, and then now I'm on this page. Hello, Ogma. Hi, hi, hi. How are you doing? Are you doing the D2 gem? Boom, boom. Meow. Meow, 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 meow. Alright, I guess I just needed to reload the page. Alright, let's see here. Drift. Drift is a yes, for sure, right? Drift is like the best theme ever, which is probably also has been like in game jams for like 1,000 times though, right? But I'm going to vote yes anyway, because I did not participate in a game where the theme is Drift. But I would say this is a yes. How do I like make it like the super like? How do I super like the thing? There's a feature for this jam where you can super like things. Right? You don't think there is a super like? It was discussed when this jam was being created. Because if you didn't know, I'm one of the organizers, yes. I'm so organizing everything. So I know everything that's happening behind the scenes there. It was there the first time? Did they remove it? Isn't later in voting? Oh, maybe it's in the voting. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so not in the theme elimination. All right. Fine. It just means that in order to super like a theme, we need to dislike every other theme, literally, right? Like, what's the bill? What's the bill? A guy named Bill. Ducks. How is ducks connected to Bill? Why is this? Why is this here? Is there like a Bill duck? Bill the duck, is that a thing? What's Bill the duck? Ducks have a bill, their mouse. Oh, like their mouth is called Bill? Alright, got it, got it. Ducks Bill is a triumph of the evolutionary tool making. designed for scooping up water and rootling around for insects. I didn't know that it's called a bill. Got it. Let's vote no here. I mean, it's not too bad, actually. I like the bill. But I'm going to vote no anyway. Expect the unexpected. This is like the worst. It's like, I don't know. I'm not liking it. Rainy day. No. Forbidden. No. Abyss. No. Separate expedition. No. Hollow. Night. No. Double vision. No. Festivity. No. Balls. I do like balls. But for the sake of theme, no. Plants. No. Dance mechanic. No. Actually, hold on. I think, actually... Hello, Nigel. You vote no like I vote yes? You just vote yes for everything? I got it. Yeah. Like... So I'm going to try and make the game with Kast, right? Which means that the game is not going to be very, like, complex, right? But at the same time, I was thinking, what if, like, I make a multiplayer game with Kast? We can do that. Right? And I was like, what would be a simplest multiplayer game? And like, imagine an MMO, like dance party game where like you basically like press the buttons at the correct timing, right? Like the rhythm game, but multiplayer. Has this been done before? So like that's what I was thinking about. So maybe like I will actually vote yes for this because I had this idea at some point. That sounds risky. The multiplayer? I mean, there is 1 week, right? I can, like multiplayer is easy, I think. Like, especially the simple multiplayer, right? I just need to be able to send the messages, that's it. What do you mean 1 week? There's 1 week to make sure that multiplayer can work, which I'm pretty sure I can make it work in a day, right? Like, we already have the multiplayer, like... because I have the Twitch bot written in Kast, right? It's just for the multiplayer in a game jam, I just need the WebSocket, not the regular socket. And that's it. I'm not sure, like, if the WebSocket is also available in the Node.js, WebSocket server Node.js. It's probably, like, built in there anyway, right? Node.js can now act as a WebSocket client. What about the WebSocket server? Can you do it in Node.js? Did we worry about all this stuff you have to rewrite in Kast? What stuff, though? Like, it's literally just sending messages, right? Just JSON with, like, the position of the character and, like, the button that the button that I press, that's all. Apart from multiplayer, but I already made a game, right? Like, what else is there to add? Like, I can draw things, I can do music, sound effects. That's all that you need, right? To make a game. What else is there to redo? I mean, have a camera properly, right? And, like, some of the math stuff. But in general, I think, like, making a simple game is definitely doable. I don't know what I need to remake. Do you have, like, a lot of things? Like, there is not a lot of features in Gang anyway, right? When you are making a game for a game jam, do you have a lot of things prepared in advance? Like, what do you use from Gang? Just like having the ability to read the player input, right? The keyboard, mouse, be able to draw something. You use Gang utils you wrote. What's in your Gang utils? I don't use that. And you copy-pasted a lot from the other gems? I think I never copy-pasted. Like, the only thing that I copy-pasted is the flake. These days. You just have like event key. Whatever that is. Some oh, that's a big library. Okay, some GIFs, geometry, torus. Got it. Yeah, like I feel like this can be written in the game itself, though. If I need to make a game on a torus. GIFs. I guess we are just like not going to make a game with GIFs. Layout. I'm not using these things usually. What's a pixel? Pixel perfection. I don't care about this. Tiles the area with the textures UV. Texture. You have your own texture. To be pixel perfect. Aligns with the pixels of the frame buffer. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's because you're doing pixel perfect stuff. Maybe. That's like the most useful thing that I see here. Yeah, I don't think like it's going to be a problem. I just need to make sure that I can like do the multiplayer. So we just do the WebSocket client and server library. Hello, LLM man. LLM man. I am the LLM man. Or are you talking to someone else? I'm not an LLM. I might look like an AI, but I'm not. I promise. Pique my curiosity. What is this theme? No. Unconventional combat? No. Blackout? No. Point of view? No. Pickle? No. Deja vu? No. Friendship? No. Double-edged sword? No. Exploration? No. Echo punk? No. Punk? Anything with punk gets node immediately. Steps? Reflection? No. Plunk? No. Frame? No. Running? No. Caregiver? How many themes are there? I think I'm almost there. Release? No. Alchemy? No. What's in there? No. Blast? No. Village? No. Now you see me, now you don't? No. Stain? No. Fractured? No. Echoing spaces? No. Okay, there we go. I voted for the themes. Easy. You should activate the web search feature in order to produce better result. Alright, I voted yes for dance mechanic and drift. I'm okay with doing those. Alright, so that's down to jam, which is going to happen in 1 week. And we're going to do it with Kast. Alright, last time I was doing Kast, I was trying to implement, I was trying to like get into the context effect system inference. And I failed. I was thinking about it a little bit. Also, this thing here that I linked in my Kast channel. Hello? Discord? I was looking some things up a little bit. I found this, which is pretty interesting, paper, which also is about Scala. I feel like Scala is the most interesting language out of those that, like, if I was to look at a language, I should look at Scala. Maybe. And they have an extension to Scala with a bunch of things that allows a bunch of things, but do you want to hand over the flame graph of Kast LSP's contribution? Dance mechanic? Huh? But yeah, speaking about like this thing, right? The LSP, improve LSP. Improve LSP is one of the things that would be nice, right? Like make incremental, at least a little bit, so that like the standard library doesn't need to be recompiled every time I change a single symbol, and like, yeah, like basically introduce the units of compilation and don't recompile everything from scratch every time. That would be really nice, right? Otherwise my LSP is really slow. Yeah, so the other thing is like context inference. That was I was talking about here. So here's the idea. I think I understand how to do it. I think I understand, but I'm not sure exactly if like I can make it, like I can make something that works, I think, but let's think about it a little bit, about the context inference here. So here's the idea is that we want the APIs to be simple, but still safe and hard to misuse, right? So as the 1 second. All right, here's the idea, right? As the thing that is having the simplest API ever, we have the raylib, right? A prime example of the simple API, according to most people, I guess. Right? Am I still satisfied with the mic? Yeah, sure. Mic is fine. Yes, I think. I mean, that's not for me to decide though, because I'm not listening to myself still, right? Are you still satisfied with me talking into this mic? All right, so the idea is that this code here, which looks like this, right? So let's say that we are going to mimic this in Rust. We have a function in it, and then I'm having the function like dinit or something, right? And then something like use, like, I don't know, draw, whatever, right? So the idea is that you should only be able to draw if you have initialized and you have not deinitialized yet, right? And you should not be able to deinitialize twice. You should not be able to initializing twice maybe is okay. But yeah. So this looks simple, but this has the implicit like API. The API here has implicit rules that the draw must be called only after the init happens. If you do this actually in Rust, right? You would, I don't know, let's call this raylib, right? So initialize draw and the init, right? So if you do it in like the Rust, like raylib rusty, right? Maybe. Then you would instead have the like the context as a struct, probably, and then you would like say context new. So you return like self, and then you can draw. So you can draw only if you have the context by having this as a method, right? I just call this init, and then we have the dinit, which consumes self, so that you cannot use it anymore, basically, right? So then, if you look at the main function that uses this style of the API, then you would say that context is context init, and then you say like context draw, and then you say context dinit, right? So on one hand, this looks very similar to this, but this is more explicit about the context, which sometimes is good, right? But it adds the visual noise, I guess, which you don't want. So the idea is that we want to keep the simple API, but still have the guarantees of this, because otherwise, I guess that Raylib has to actually check that the window has been initialized on every function call, right? Like if you have get frame time, what does it return if the window has not been initialized and whatever? How do you clear a background if the window has not been initialized? There's like these checks everywhere, or it is undefined behavior, right? One or the other. I'm actually wondering, what do they do? Is there a documentation wiki? Was there no documentation? Only the wiki? Raylib does not provide the typical API documentation or a big set of tutorials. The library is designed to be minimalistic and be learned just from a cheat sheet with all the required functionality and a big collection of examples. Got it. Cheat sheet. So this doesn't explain then what happens, right? Let's ask ChatGPT. You love undefined behavior? I'm just wondering, what do they do? In Raylib, what's going to happen if I try to draw without initializing window? Depending, so it's actually undefined behavior, depending on the platform and build. Begin drawing. Internally, Raylib assumes a valid window plus context exists. If it doesn't, you're just looking at the uninitialized state. And it's not even documented, right? Well, I mean, it's pretty like easy to assume based on the thing that you should initialize the window. I don't know if like this is an easy assumption to make if you're a beginner programmer, though, you know? But are they actually doing the undefined behavior? Yes, effectively undefined behavior. really relies heavily on the global internal state. So yeah, from Raylib's design perspective, it's simply invalid usage of the API contract. But the thing is that this is an implicit API contract, especially in addition with the no documentation, makes it very weird, in my opinion. But yeah, so in Kast, we want this API contract to be there, and the language should understand this. So the basically make invalid usage impossible is the thing that we are going after. Similar to making invalid state unrepresentable, which is already used in which people already try to do in languages like Rust and Haskell. So here's the idea, right? Here's the idea. How do we do this, right? How do we do this? So my thinking is that Raylib Kast, right? So Raylib Kast, Rust cannot describe this kind of APIs, but we should be able to do that. We're basically going to say that every function is changing the context, right? Potentially. Not necessarily, but potentially changing the context. So every function is having an extra argument, C, which is context. So context of type C. And then the other context that we... So like this function actually returns something, the new context, right? So in this case specifically, it is going to be the context with Raylib initialized, you know? So we're going to have the Raylib, I don't know, let's just call this initialized. So we have the initialized state, and we are extending our context with the fact that the state is initialized. Is it time to hate coding? Oh, I hate coding all the time, yes. Of course. Which is what we're trying to fix by making our own programming language. Hello, again. Right? So, this is the basic idea, is that every function in Kast is having an implicit context argument, but also it's returning implicitly the new type of the context. So every function is potentially changing the context, and we are going to have this in the type system. So this is like similar to like Raylib effectful or whatever. So in a language with the effect system, you could just say that init is the function that is returning nothing, but it also is doing the actually with in a language with effects you cannot even like do that. Yes, there is no languages that I know of that can do this kind of thing. Because this is a function that basically introduces the effect handler, kind of. That would be something like with init or something. Yeah, so like the original idea was that we do init, and this returns nothing, but with initialized, right? That's like ideally what we write. But what I'm saying is that what does this actually compile down to, right? Like how do we implement this? Because that's what I was trying to think about last time. Right? So how do we do this? And this is what I have come up with so far, which init Raylib and Raylib context effect. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Raylib. Yeah, let's just say context here, right? Straight context. Sure. Initialize is called context. Sure. Raylib context, right? Raylib context. Yes. It is exactly that. So like this is looking a lot simpler, but the reason I'm showing this is because this is actually how it's supposed to be implemented, right? Because basically what happens under the hood is that we are changing the context after the function is called. We were previously in a context without the raylib context, and now we are in a context where raylib is initialized, right? Where we have the raylib context, right? Unit into raylib with nothing? No. No, this it does not actually return anything, right? We want this API just like in raylib, just init, and that's it. Because if you do it this way, function init, we just returns raylib context. Then like let's try to write main here, right? Because then if you initialize, you have this value returned from init, and now you need to do something with it. So you do something like with init, basically, right? Which is complicating this thing, right? And also, what if the initialize function is initializing more than one thing, not just raylib context, but a bunch of things, right? Because that's what I literally was trying to do previously, right? When I was making my example game with Kast. Here's Kast game example, right? So I have the gang init function, and this function is returning both the gang context and the OpenGL context. Because after you initialize the gang, you can use both things, right? And potentially this is going to only grow, right? So, like for example, this input and this audio should be part of the game engine. So the initialization of the engine is the thing that should return multiple things, and then I need to like initialize all of them.
I only do it for the emotes.
Thank you, Bigorly. Enjoy your emotes. Use some sugar to easily add stuff to the context. I don't think so. Like, well, I mean, actually, you might be right. But at the same time, like, if it's just done automatically for you, isn't that better? All right, let's have like the other version here. So we have a mod raylib cast like v2. Okay. So this is what we can do right now, right? We have raylib context. We have the function init, which returns raylib context, and then we just say with init then, and then I can do draw, right? Because function draw is, well, I mean, I cannot write cast here directly. Hello, Jerem. You want every addition explicit, you think?
Hello, Dev 9-inch nails ya.
What about deletions, though? What about deletions? Right? What about the D init? How do you do that? It's not like I'm going to have 100 widths. What about D init, though? Do you want this to be explicit, too? So the idea is that these contexts are going to have similar rules to the Rust's borrow checker, where the context, where you specify this in the arguments, right? The context, it must be present in the calling context of the function, right? But what actually, like, what do we do with the context? We might need it. We might need to mutate that context variable, or we might need to like just borrow it, or we might need to take it, just like with other things in language with ownership, like in Rust, right? So this context, I should also be able to specify whether I'm referencing them, moving them, or not. So if you have like the dinit function, that would just need to have the context and move it into this, right? Just like when you just have the function, the method which is taking self. Basically just Rust rules, yeah. Drop context at the end of with scope. Well, that's the default behavior, yes. Just because with is just introducing the variable, but the implicit variable, the context variable, I guess, right? Is that not enough? Well, sometimes you want the explicit drops too, I guess. Just like in Rust, you don't always just drop the variables at the end of the scope. Sometimes you actually explicitly move them into other functions. Like you sometimes actually call the stdmem drop explicitly. Do you never do this? I needed to do that sometimes. All right. I mean, it's a good question. Is it actually useful? Am I trying like do we need to like come up with the use case for the feature? But okay. I will tell you this. If we're talking about the use cases, this paper that I have linked, let's open it. Because they have the use case, but I have not checked it much. So specifically, they say this, right? So programs often perform not only pure computations, but also interact with an external environment, observing and mutating state. Whatever, right? So we're mutating the global state by initializing the array label or whatever, right? So we want that to be present in the type system. So you can do the scoped constructs, which what the with is doing, right? By introducing it in the scope and then dropping it at the end of the scope, right? But if you do this, but that you don't have the fine grained control, which is what the explicit drop would allow, right? And as an example of the thing that is useful is that they say that so they're managing the locks specifically here in a database connection or something, right? Synchronized table, locate row table, synchronized row, return compute on row. right? So you have a table, I guess it's like some sort of an in-memory database like API where you lock the entire table, and inside of that you find the row, then you lock that row, and then you compute the row, right? And why is this bad? Because while you're computing on the row, you could potentially compute some other rows, but you are locked, but you have the entire table locked here, right? And with the fine-grained explicit thing, you can just lock the table explicitly. Then you can lock the row after locating it, and after that you can already unlock it immediately. Which can enable improved parallelism, right? Do we agree with this example here? If I was writing Rust, how would I write this? Right? I feel like in Rust it's actually easy to do it without it being explicit. If you actually manage to keep the lock on the row. Well, I mean, in Rust, like the first lock guard would be like dropped immediately, right? Let's just write this example here. And see. In Rust, you cannot mutate the row without mutating the table. If we're talking borrow checker, well, I mean, it is behind the locks, right? So I guess in Rust, this example sounds like you have the table, which is going to be behind a lock, right? So table is mutex a new table rows. Use std sync lock. Is that the thing? Right? So then we say that table lock is table lock. Makes sense, but what the actual nice looking code? Well, I mean, the this is the nice looking code, I think, according to this paper, this one, right? Like, I mean, literally like this. I'm just saying that in Rust, this problem is kind of... in Rust, it's kind of solved already. It's something like this supposed to be. Sync mutex. I here value Just say that I'm going to take the one number 0 here. Looking more and more like Rust every day. I mean, I'm watching Rust right now, yeah. You do look unwrap in Rust, but it's okay. Table lock row. That would be just like row lock unwrap, right? So now you can unlock. Unlock you just do by stdmm drop table lock. And then you have compute on row. Row is just row 0. Sure. And over here you drop the row lock. Compute on row or lock. Let's see. No field 0 on row. Row value. You cannot move out of a table lock because it is borrowed. Binding table lock declared here. Borrow of table lock occurs here. Move out of table lock occurs here. Borrow later used in this place. Gotta arc that mutex. I mean, yeah, I suppose, but was that how they do it? I suppose they do. I suppose that like they have to do it like this in the databases, right? Because like since you are unlocking the table here, it means that this row can potentially be deleted, right? Since you unlocked it, but it still needs to exist because they are computing something on it, so you need to reference count it. It makes sense. Indeed. Right? So Lecatro will just give me the clone of this, right? Arc clone. Like that. And then the borrow checker is going to be satisfied. std use std rc arc. Is it there? I don't remember. std arc. std sync. Okay, there we go. So do it like this, right? And so Rust is actually allowing you to do this already. Are you writing a DB? No. I'm just thinking about the context inference here. Remember the last time I was trying to think about it and I did not get far, right? So I found this paper which allows you to have the context. So like we are changing the state of the context when we call some functions, right? So the idea of how would I implement the context inference that I had is that we have our functions, like this is the gang init, right? So when I'm initializing my gang engine, so it's going to be actually something like this. It's going to be the type, so it's just a function that returns nothing, but it changes the context from being the context, so it's like going to be generic over the context type. So we had some context, but now we have the context where the gang engine is initialized. So, and not only that, we initialize like we have gang context available, and we also have the OpenGL context. Something like this, I think, is how I want the signatures to work. Being generic over the original context in which the function is called allows us to like explicitly do this, and this is doable with the row types then properly. It's a little bit like too explicit though. So like instead we want to specify that, so like in this case, right, like this function is introducing two new contexts into the calling scope of the function, right? So I don't want to like actually initialize the engine and then like unpack this struct and then introduce this context into the current scope, right? This, like, these three lines should just be replaced with a single line, like initialize the engine. That's all, right? That's like the goal. But just Nertzel was saying that Nertzel doesn't like this being implicit, right? Is that correct? So like that's the style of the API that Raylib gives you. Right? And we want it to be safe. You want still to have special stuff for modifying the context. Well, I mean, you will. It's just like we want this still, right? Is what I'm saying. There's enough implicit stuff, and you don't need that one to be implicit. But how do you write? How do you write the initialization of the engine, right? Because in the Rust version of the gang, you are passing the handle to the engine, like the gang context, around all the time, right? Which is very explicit, and like it's just like visual noise. Having that being passed around implicitly is fine, I think. Especially if we like in the future have more low-level APIs, more low-level context, like allocators, right? If you pass the allocator around all the time explicitly, the engine around, the OpenGL context, the audio context, the input context, if all of these are passed around explicitly, then it's just like a lot of visual noise. I think, why not with gang init? You're arguing about the syntax. Why not? Because this is part of the APIs. Basically, like, I guess what I'm talking about is that there are already existing APIs. There are already existing APIs that basically say that, like, after you do this function has a side effect of initializing its, like, internal state, right? And you don't, like, we just want to basically type the existing APIs properly, right? We don't want to change them. We want them to look exactly like they are, just add the type annotations. Does that make sense? So like, if you say with, if you say like with Raylib init window instead of just Raylib init window, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's like different. I feel like in a certain places there's going to be basically we're going to see a lot of widths depending on what we do with this context, right? Like how, like like there are other things, right? In Raylib specifically. Let's open Raylib again. Bum, 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 bum. You want to know every effect possible? You will know it by like hovering on the functions or something, right? Like, do you need the visual noise of the keyword there? Do you not like the context system at all? You want to be always explicit, like in Zig, where you pass the allocator around explicitly all the time? Cheat sheet is what we want, right? So there are other things, like, I guess it's mostly like about begin drawing and end drawing, right? So this thing is basically introducing you, so like after begin drawing, you are in the context that allows you to draw. So if you draw outside of begin end, then you should not be able to do that, basically, right? You begin mode 2D and mode 2D, like all of these things. So you're just saying that this should be prefixed with width 2. Introduce explicitly, use implicitly. Similar to that weird Haskell syntax expression where you unpack and record with ... and wow, suddenly all of its fields are in scope. I mean, yeah. When do we do Elixir macros? I have something coming up. What do you mean? Are you guys working on the same project together? Okay, Nerdcell. So like, there should be an option, right? Some people will like, I mean, it depends on like the library that you're making. Sometimes you want it to be explicit. Sometimes you want things to be implicit. I feel like that's the answer here, right? But if we want to just keep the Raylib API literally as is, right? Why would we want that? I don't know, for like people coming from other languages that are already like familiar with the API, they literally just copy paste their code and it just works, but it also type check. It also like is being checked at the same time. You like one-to-one mapping, so I don't have to learn weird S bindings? Yeah. I think it makes sense. Like familiarity, it's not like the most important goal, but like having the ability to do that, I feel like is important. Maybe the Raylib is not the best example though, right? I'm just trying to think, like, is there any context that I would like to introduce without this? You can have compilers spit an error unused in new context or something. Async. But async, like, also, like, I mean, if we follow the Nerdcell's logic, we can introduce the async like explicitly with the keyword too, right? Like, so the Tokyo runtime in Rust, for example, right? You must like call certain functions from within the Tokyo runtime, which is basically the same, right? We would just do Tokyo init or something, Tokyo runtime init. And after we do this, we can call any async function because we have the async executor in the scope now, right? So Nerdcell just saying that, like, because this is like introducing the new context, he wants the keyword to be here, right? So that it's like obvious that the context is introduced here. I'm just like trying to come up with the example of the thing that I kind of want to be introduced implicitly. Like, I don't know. I cannot come up with an example. Yeah. If I cannot come up with an example of how a feature is useful, does it mean that it's useless? Probably not. I just need to think a little bit about it a little bit more, about the actual use case. I mean, like the only like difference right now is the presence of the keyword, right? Do they have, maybe, hold on, let's take a look at this paper. They have case studies here. Let's take a look at the, so they have the table locking. That's a study, right? Then they have the DOM trees. What is this? Make DOM tree open div, tree close p. Error state is div nil, not p. Right, so like when you're writing the HTML, you need to like match your open and closing tags, right? So it can be used for that here. But I feel like there are other alternatives to do that in languages like Rust already. Maybe not a good example. Session types. Session types are mechanisms for specifying communication protocol in types, ensuring type safety and adherence to the protocol. In particular, binary session protocol is used to control channel-based communication between two parties. The idea is to have a channel with two endpoints. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Solve problem? No. Think of an idea. Find problems it solves. Yeah. Yeah, like one of the like examples is that you need to, I think that's something like Raymarch is wanted also for something, but basically in Rust there is no way to change the type of self, right? So the example that I have seen is that when you are writing the HTTP request, so in order to create the HTTP request, you need to first write the headers and then the body of the HTTP request or response, right? So there is this like state. Have we written the headers yet, or have we started writing the body of the HTTP request already, right? Or response. So the way it's done is that you actually have like two separate things, right? HTTP write HTTP like writing header state, and then you have the HTTP writing body state. And then when you are, so like you finish writing the header, finish headers, I guess, right? So you convert self into the new state, which is the writing body. I remember like Raymarch wanted this for something else, but basically you say that like, so you start by writing the headers, right? And then at some point you just finish header, but now in the way you do it in Rust, you just reassign the variable, right? So this is also the visual noise. What we want instead is just say like finish the header, and this should like just change the type of W automatically, right? Just to reduce the noise, make the API look simpler. Right? That's different from the context, though, I think. Sounds a bit wild to me. Well, you have these APIs in other languages, where this the state of like whatever. Like other languages, instead of changing the type, they just like, I don't know, panic or throw an exception if you start writing the HTTP body in between writing the headers. Like if you write another header after you have finished writing the body, they just throw an exception instead. It's not like taping. I mean, it is changing the type, but the idea is that like the type is still the same, right? It's me writing HTTP response, right? It's just this type can be in multiple states, which is why this is called the type state pattern. Let's see the other examples. So, I mean, so in this case, we're changing the type of the of us writing the HTTP thing, and in the context, we want to basically change the type of the context. In this case, it's the explicit variable, and in the context case, it's the implicit variables. But the idea is we just change the types. Bum, 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 bum. Maybe a lot of people like this. A huge mental blocker of going to type state pattern is writing all the boilerplate. Well, yeah. Like imagine if you imagine if instead of having two separate types, you would instead have something like this: struct HTTP writer, I guess is what we call it, and I have like this state or something. This is like the argument, right? And we have like the, I mean, it's going to be the same. It doesn't matter, I guess. How the function declare that it changes the type of self. I don't know really, but I remember that Raymarsh wanted this for something else too. What if you treat the value as type and you allow methods under condition on some fields? I mean, yeah. I just realized I'm not going to stream for a long time. We have 5 more minutes, guys. Let's do something. Rename the length to chaos. Alright, so you guys don't like this idea, right? I'm maybe just I'm bad at explaining and coming up with the use cases. You personally really like gang init? Yeah. Well, I mean, Raylib API is something that people like in general, right? So, like, having the ability to do that API without any noise is good because of that. Because people like it, which means that it's good, right? If people like something, it means that it's good, right? So we just add the safety to the existing APIs without changing the API itself. There's language like Odin doing it like this, but Odin also is a language with the undefined behavior, and these kind of contracts are implicit, right? And not type checked. Like, it's just in general, it's the C style, I guess. Let's vote to with or not to with. Gang in it. 6-7%. We win. Okay, Nerdcell. We win. With gang in it is not so bad. All right. I mean, if we go with the with gang in it, it's a little bit like simpler to do because we only have the implicit arguments to functions, not implicit return values of the functions, right? So we might go for that for the easier implementation of the language, I suppose. Maybe. I'll think about it. Anyway, let's just write the plan. What are we going to do on the next streams, right? The plan. So yeah, we want to like do the down to gem in a week. I want to improve the LSP, the context inference. Is this important or not? Or do we work on something else, right? In order to maybe make a multiplayer game, we want the WebSocket library in Kast, WebSocket, both client and server, right? Improving the LSP, I think, is actually more important than the context inference. It's just, yeah. You know what? Maybe what we do is something like this, right? Because right now the gang init is a function that returns a tuple with multiple fields, right? So what if we say not with gang init, but with ... gang init? Because we unpack the tuple. So we have like multiple values returned from this function, and we are using all of the return values from the function. Do you like this more, Nerdsoul? No? What the fuck? No? You don't like this? Well, I mean, it's multiple values here, right? Or should like with always work with multiple values? Should it automatically see if I'm returning a single value or multiple value? And like, oh, I mean, yeah, it depends. Like if we treat the context as like any type can be the context or not any type. So if I say with gang init when gang init is the thing that is returning multiple values, then I'm having this as a context, not the gang context and a GL context, but the entire thing as a context, which is weird. Right? So in order to disambiguate, we need this ... here, which is already used to unpack, basically. Right? So you like this, right? Okay, we can go for this then. We can do it without the context inference. We can make this work, I guess, right? So in order to... Yeah, we can start with that. I suppose. But like, I think... So like sometimes you return a single value, sometimes you return multiple values. Does it mean that basically you want always to return a tuple, even if it's like a single context, just for like future proofing? If you want to add the function from like returning, from initializing a single context to multiple contexts later, you just introduce the single value tuple instead and always use this syntax, basically. Kind of weird a little bit, maybe. So should this just always be like that, then? And it's always unpacking? I don't know. We'll think about it a little bit more. But yeah, I guess the inference is not that important in order to work. I guess that's the plan. It's not that difficult, and depending on how much I stream in this week, maybe we actually get to the inference part too, after all. But yeah, like I said, I have like a basic idea of how to do the inference, but in the current state, it's a little bit too explicit, that the type descriptions, which I don't like, so I need to think about it a little bit more. I can make it work, but I want to make it work and be nice at the same time, I guess. You're liking 5 minutes behind mentally? Stream latency? Alright. Yeah, I need to go. I have already streamed a Zomboid today, but I died, which is why I'm back to Kast. Alright, next time we do a longer stream. I guess next time I just want to maybe... we'll see. Zomboid is over. Yeah, I'm sad that it's over though. I would like to play it more and postpone my being productive with Kast. Zomboid is really addicting. Is this guy programming in the VR? And they're doing Scala. That's Scala 2 though, not Scala 3 with all the fancy features. Alright, anyway, see you guys next time. Bye.
Look at all those beauties.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.